How fast can you change? Keep watching. This is Life Mastery Gym. I'm Damon, and I teach people just like you cutting-edge NLP processes and techniques so that you can master your life and take charge of your destiny. So if that sounds good, make sure you click that subscribe button right down here so you can get these videos on a regular basis. I've been doing NLP for several years and I teach it, and I've coached hundreds of clients through transformation and helping them achieve what it is that they want in life. And it always amazes me sometimes how simple it can really be. And with NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, sometimes just changing your words can have a huge impact on the way you think about something and making it more possible and more accessible. By the end of this video, you're going to learn how just one word can make a huge difference in getting what it is that you want. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, make sure you put them down here in the comment section. I will respond to you. So you're probably wondering, what is this word that I'm talking about? Well, it's very, very simple. It's the word if. Now, how can if change everything? Well, more specifically, it's called the as-if frame in NLP. And the way that it works is you think about something you feel limited by, something you can't do, something you say, well, I want to do this, but I can't. And then we use the as-if frame to get your mind on the other side of the limitation. So what most people are focused on, they're focused so much on the limitation, on the thing that, the problem, the thing that they can't do, rather than what it is that they want. In fact, in many cases, people don't actually know what they want. They're so focused on the problem. They're so focused on the pain or the limitation or the lack of fulfillment. And they're so focused on what it is they don't want that they don't even know what it would be like to be on the other side of that limitation. So when someone says, I can't, I ask them, well, what if you could? Or someone says, well, I don't know. I'll say something like, well, what if you did know? Because I have plenty of people who come to me who have a problem they're looking to solve. And I say, well, what is it you want? And they go into describing the problem more. And I'm like, no, okay, I get that. I get what you don't want. I get that what the problem is. What do you want instead? And sometimes they'll just flat out tell me, I don't know. And then that's when I'll say, well, what if you did know? What would it be? And it might take them a little more time. They might not have an instant answer. But what it does is it gets their mind on the other side of the limitation so they can start accessing, well, what is it that I do want? Because if you're only focused on the problem, you probably heard the saying by Einstein that you can't solve a problem at the same level in which the problem is being created. So you have to move to a different level. In addition to having a different level, accessing a different level, not just the problem level, it's also about putting the problem into context. If all you have is the problem, then that's all your focus is. And so your focus is limitation. But if you give it the context of, okay, well, here's where I am and here's where I want to be, then it makes the problem seem a lot smaller. It also makes the problem seem a lot more manageable and like it could actually have a solution rather than feeling stuck. So a lot of times I hear problems like, well, I want to do this thing, but I don't have the money. And so what I'll say is, well, what if you did have the money? And getting their mind to that other side, what it also does is it helps them access the internal resources. We think that we can't have the fulfillment we want, we can't have the resources or the access to our internal resources that we want until we have the thing that we want. But that's backwards. Even though most of us think this way, it's really backwards. So it's when you get to that other side and you say, okay, well, when I do have access to those resources, when I do have that what I want, through your imagination, give yourself that access to those internal resources and whatever it is you need to access within yourself to achieve that. And then you look back at the problem and now it seems a lot simpler, a lot easier. Now, the as-if frame can also be used in persuasion and influence, and that's basically how I use it when I'm coaching a client. I'm influencing them to move forward, to advance. And so this can be used in sales. Of course, you want to be careful how you use it. You know, if somebody says, well, I don't have the money to buy this thing, you got to be careful about how you ask, well, what if you did? You want to do that in a very gentle way. And it can be done. I have done it with success, and a lot of people do. So if you're going to use it for persuasion and influence, just make sure you do it in a gentle way, and make sure that it's relevant in the context that you're using it. So you might want to rehearse this in your mind. So think about a context in which you would like to use this, in which you encounter people who throw up limitations, who might throw up objections, and think about how would you use that? How would you use the as-if frame? And it's not always used with those two words, as if. So just think if, and then think, okay, how would you use this in your language? So I'm actually using the as if frame with you right now. How would you use this in the context in which you want to be more persuasive and more influential? And when I say more persuasive and influential, it's really in any context. That could be sales, that could be therapy, and that could be coaching. You want to rehearse this a few times before just blurting it out, because you might use it and it just doesn't fit, and it kind of throws the conversation off, and it could break rapport. So make sure you practice this a few times. As I mentioned before, the as-if frame helps the person get to the other side of limitation. It helps the person get to the other side of resistance, because that's what limitation creates. It creates some sort of inner resistance. Well, I can't. It's something that's pulling me back. I tried, but I can't. There is a deeper process that we use called parts integration, and I just did a video on this, so I'll link it to this video. And parts integration is usually what I'll use when I recognize in a person that there's something even deeper. It's not just your sort of surface level resistance where the person just hasn't thought about the possibilities and what opportunities and options might be available to them. It might be something a little more deep rooted, and we call that a conflict, an inner conflict. So if that's the problem, the as-if frame might not work. It might, because it's something deeper. So you'll want to go into parts integration for that, and then it could be even deeper than that. And it could be something that's so deep rooted and so unconscious that we'll have to use a different process called reimprinting. I have not done a video on reimprinting because it's such an in-depth process, but maybe I will in the future. If you want me to do a video on reimprinting, let me know in the comments below, right down here. So how do you know when is the right time to use the as-if frame? For me, in coaching, the time that I use it the most is when we're doing good work with a client, we're moving them forward, they're advancing quite well, and they hit a stumbling block, they hit some resistance, they hit an I don't know, or I get an I don't know from them. It's usually easier rather than just trying to dive right into a parts integration, and rather than trying to dive into reimprinting. I feel like if we're moving pretty well through the process and they're doing pretty well, I really just want to put that resistance on hold until we get to that place, until we get to that change. And when the person accesses those resources, then they can check back in with themselves and feel, whether or not they're congruent with that. So we're going along and things are going well, they're changing, they're transforming, and then we hit a stumbling block, a limitation, and then they'll feel like, well, I don't want to do that, or like there's something inside of me that's holding me back from doing one of the instructions that I give them, one of the directions that I give them. And then I'll say to them, okay, well, access that part of you that's resisting, access that limitation, and ask what its positive intent is. So I'm beginning the process of a parts integration. We never want to push resistance away. We never want to push against resistance. In other words, we don't want to resist resistance, because that only creates more problems, it creates more friction. So we listen to the resistance, we find out what it's trying to do for you in a positive way, and then I say, how about we just tell the resistance that we're just exploring, we're just discovering, we're just experimenting. So for just a few moments, or maybe to the end of this session, suspend that resistance and let us move forward. So in a sense, I'm saying, what would it be like as if we could just go forward without the resistance? And let's assure that resistance, that part of you that's resisting, that if we make any changes that don't fit well, that don't feel congruent, we'll go back and change it back. And so a lot of times I can get the person to just put the resistance on hold, put it into suspension, or suspend it for just the remainder of the coaching session, so that we can get that person to the other side of the change. And once they have the change and they're accessing those new internal resources, then we check for congruence. How is it feeling? Are these changes okay? Is that part of you happy with these changes? A lot of times it is, because a lot of times we have these parts that are just scared that, that it's just an unknown. So it resists just because having what it is that you want isn't known to it yet. So let's put that resistance on hold, act as if we can move forward without the resistance. We get there, and then we realize, okay, yeah, that works. The part of that was resisting is happy, it's fine. It then integrates on its own. So this is the way I can work much faster, rather than having to go into a parts integration every single time, and rather than having to go into a reimprint. A lot of times just using the as-if frame, get the client to the other side of the problem. We're there, and then the part that was resisting is happy, and everybody's happy, everybody's congruent, and we have the solution. If you'd like to know more about how in NLP we use words and language patterns to create change and transformation, whether that's for yourself or for your clients. Check the description right here down below. I have 2 links there for 2 PDFs. One is a PDF for the language patterns of the Meta Model, and another is the language patterns for the Milton Model. These are both transformational language patterns that you can use to create change and transformation in yourself and with your clients. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button and click the bell so you'll be notified when I put new videos out. And last but not least, if you could think of a friend or a family member who you think might benefit from this video, make sure you share it with them. Take care.